What if a single woman could challenge the might of Rome? What if her intelligence and ambition made her not only a queen but one of the most unforgettable rulers in history? Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, was far more than the seductive figure Hollywood often portrays. She was a strategist, a diplomat, and a leader who fought to preserve her empire against insurmountable odds. Born in 69 BC in the grand city of Alexandria, Cleopatra VII was the daughter of Pharaoh Ptolemy XII. Her lineage traced back to Ptolemy I, a general of Alexander the Great, who had carved out a powerful Greco-Egyptian dynasty. Raised in the luxurious halls of the royal palace, Cleopatra was unlike any of her predecessors. She was educated in philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and rhetoric, mastering several languages, one of the few Ptolemies to speak Egyptian fluently. From an early age, she understood that her survival depended not just on royal birthright, but on intelligence, adaptability, and political acumen. As a young princess, she witnessed the fragile state of Egypt, a land torn by debt, internal strife, and the ever-growing shadow of Rome. Her father, known as Alitz, was a weak ruler, relying on Roman support to maintain his throne. Cleopatra knew that if she were to rule, she could not afford to show weakness. Her journey to power, however, would be anything but smooth. In 51 BC, Ptolemy XII died, leaving his throne to Cleopatra and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. As was tradition, the two were to co-rule as husband and wife, but their partnership was doomed from the start. Cleopatra, now 18 years old, was fiercely independent and unwilling to be a puppet. Ptolemy XIII, heavily influenced by his advisors, sought to undermine her authority. A bitter power struggle erupted. Cleopatra was soon forced into exile, fleeing to Syria. But exile was not defeat. It was an opportunity to plan her return. She knew that brute force alone would not be enough to reclaim her throne. She needed an ally, and she found one in the most powerful man of her time, Julius Caesar. By 48 BC, Julius Caesar had arrived in Alexandria, pursuing his rival, Pompey. Ptolemy XIII, desperate to gain favor with Caesar, had Pompey murdered upon his arrival. However, instead of earning Caesar's gratitude, the act horrified him. Sensing an opportunity, Cleopatra devised one of the boldest political maneuvers in history. With the help of her loyal servant Apollodorus, she had herself smuggled into the royal palace inside a rolled-up carpet. When presented to Caesar, she did not beg for mercy. She commanded attention. Her intelligence, charm, and ambition intrigued the Roman general. That night, Cleopatra and Caesar struck an alliance, one that would change the course of history. Cleopatra's return to power was now within reach, but the battle for Egypt had only just begun. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra's claim to the throne was strengthened, but Ptolemy XIII and his advisors refused to relinquish power. The tension between Rome and the Egyptian monarchy escalated into open conflict. The city of Alexandria became a battleground as Roman legions clashed with Egyptian forces loyal to Ptolemy. As the war raged, Ptolemy's forces attempted to lay siege to the royal palace, trapping Caesar and Cleopatra inside. The streets ran red with blood as factions battled for control. Meanwhile, the Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest repositories of knowledge in the ancient world, became a casualty of war, set ablaze during the chaos. Despite being outnumbered, Caesar's strategic mind turned the tide of battle in his favor. Ptolemy XIII, attempting to flee across the Nile, met a tragic end. His boat capsized, and he drowned in the murky waters. With his death, Cleopatra's claim was secured. She was reinstated as pharaoh alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, though it was clear she held the true power. Now in full control of Egypt, Cleopatra sought to strengthen her rule and solidify her alliance with Rome. She and Caesar celebrated their victory with a grand procession through Alexandria. But her ambitions extended beyond Egypt. She aimed to restore the kingdom to its former glory, expanding its influence across the Mediterranean. Her relationship with Caesar deepened, and soon she bore him a son, Ptolemy XV, known as Caesarion. To Cleopatra, he was the symbol of a new era, one where Egypt and Rome could coexist as equals. However, not all in Rome welcomed this union. Many senators viewed Cleopatra with suspicion, fearing her influence over Caesar and the potential threat of an Egyptian heir to Rome's throne. Cleopatra traveled to Rome in 46 BC, where she was received with curiosity and controversy. She lived in Caesar's villa outside the city, dazzling the Roman elite with her intelligence and regality. Yet, whispers of discontent spread among Rome's power-hungry senators. To them, Cleopatra represented a dangerous foreign queen who threatened to alter the very foundations of the Republic. As tensions in Rome grew, Cleopatra sensed the shifting winds. Soon, a conspiracy was brewing, one that would shake the world and place her entire future in jeopardy. On the Ides of March 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated in the Senate by a group of conspirators, including his once trusted allies. His brutal murder sent shockwaves through Rome, plunging the Republic into chaos. Cleopatra, still in the city with their son, realized that her position had become precarious. She knew that without Caesar's protection, her enemies would see her as nothing more than an opportunistic foreign queen. Fearing for her safety and Caesarion's future, Cleopatra swiftly departed Rome, returning to Alexandria. Rome was now a battlefield between Mark Antony and Octavian, Caesar's heir. Cleopatra watched carefully, waiting to see which of them would rise to power. Her survival depended on choosing the right ally in the tumultuous power struggle ahead. Cleopatra's patience paid off when Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals, summoned her to Tarsus in 41 BC. Understanding the importance of first impressions, Cleopatra arrived in grandeur, sailing up the river on a gilded barge with purple sails, dressed as the goddess Isis. Antony, known for his indulgence and charisma, was immediately captivated by her presence. Their meeting sparked an intense romance, but it was more than just passion. This was a strategic alliance. Antony needed Egypt's wealth to fund his military campaigns, and Cleopatra needed a strong Roman ally. Their bond deepened, and they spent the winter of 41 to 40 BC together in Alexandria, reveling in their newfound partnership. However, their affair soon set the stage for the greatest conflict of their lives, as Octavian declared war on them both. Mark Antony and Cleopatra's alliance soon turned into their greatest vulnerability. While they ruled Egypt together in grandeur, Octavian, the heir of Caesar, saw them as a threat to his ambition of ruling Rome. He launched a powerful propaganda campaign, portraying Cleopatra as a manipulative foreign queen who had bewitched Antony. The Roman Senate declared war, framing it as a battle against Egypt rather than Antony himself. In 31 BC, the forces of Antony and Cleopatra met Octavian's navy at the Battle of Actium. Outmaneuvered and weakened by internal dissent, their fleets suffered a devastating defeat. As they retreated to Alexandria, despair and tension overtook them. Antony, unable to rally his forces, fell into a deep state of paranoia. Cleopatra, ever the strategist, prepared for their last stand, attempting to negotiate with Octavian to secure her children's future. With Octavian's legions marching toward Alexandria, Cleopatra faced a dire choice. Antony, mistakenly believing she had taken her own life, fell on his sword in anguish. As he lay dying, Cleopatra had him carried to her chambers, where he took his final breath in her arms. Now alone, she understood that surrender meant humiliation. She would be paraded through Rome as a defeated queen, her empire in chains. Determined to control her own fate, Cleopatra arranged for her final act of defiance. Legend says she allowed herself to be bitten by an asp, dying with dignity rather than becoming Octavian's trophy. When Octavian's soldiers arrived, they found her lifeless body, dressed in royal garments, lying in state beside Antony. With her death, the Ptolemaic dynasty came to an end, and Egypt fell under Roman rule, forever altering the course of history. Cleopatra's return to power was now within reach, but the battle for Egypt had only just begun. Cleopatra's death marked the end of Egypt's independence, but her legend only grew stronger. Octavian, now Augustus, seized full control of Rome and transformed it into an empire. Egypt became a province, its wealth now serving the ambitions of the Roman state. But Cleopatra's story, her intelligence, ambition, and tragic fall, fascinated generations to come. Poets, playwrights, and historians immortalized her in literature, shaping her legacy as a queen unlike any other. Her memory endured through the ages, not as a mere seductress but as a ruler who defied the greatest empire of her time. From Shakespeare's plays to modern films, Cleopatra remains an icon of power, resilience, and strategy. Though she could not prevent Egypt's downfall, she ensured her name would never be forgotten. She was not simply the last pharaoh, she was the eternal queen of history. With Cleopatra's death, Egypt's 3,000-year-old monarchy came to an end. Octavian swiftly took control of Alexandria, consolidating his power as the undisputed ruler of Rome. Caesarion, Cleopatra's son and the last hope of an independent Egypt, was captured and executed on Octavian's orders. The vast wealth of Egypt was now absorbed into the Roman treasury, funding the rise of an empire that would dominate the ancient world for centuries. The once glorious kingdom of the Pharaohs was reduced to a mere province, ruled by Roman governors. Cleopatra's palaces were looted, her temples repurposed, and her people placed under foreign rule. But even as the last remnants of her dynasty faded, Cleopatra's name was etched into history, immortalized in the stories and legends told for generations. She had lost her kingdom, but she had secured something far greater, an eternal place in the annals of time. If you enjoyed this journey through the life of Cleopatra, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing legendary stories to life. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think was history's most fascinating ruler?